Hello, everyone. This is Thomas Pepin, NHL Talk. I'm Thomas Pepin, and let's talk about the NHL. So, we are going to recap the rest of the offseason since the last point that I did a recap, which would have been free agency. What was the date? July 7. So, um, the I thought there would be a lot more that would have happened. Um, Maybe I missed stuff. I don't think I did. Like, for example, there's some smaller stuff like, uh, well, I think I covered in one of them about the vote um, going down for the new arena in Tempe. And then there's like an update recently where they're talking about buying land in, is it Mesa? Anyways, nothing's resolved, so there's not really much to talk about, I don't think, in that regard. So I think it's a lot of stuff like that. Um, so there's only like, I think it's 6 subjects I wrote down here. So just to kind of preview, so we're going to talk about the Mike Babcock resignation and Pascal Vincent hiring. So I have that as one subject. Oh, and if you want to just reference, you can see, and also the sources I'm using, you can see the list and links in the description. Second thing is Sheldon Keefe getting an extension. I don't think I'm going to talk too much about it, but I'll just have a couple comments. Bergeron and Krejci retiring, and then the impact on the Bruins. I'll tie that into one subject. Toews taking time away, which is not. Anyways, I was gonna get ahead and start talking about it, but anyway, never mind. Significant signings and then significant trades. So that's 6 subjects. So that's what we're gonna cover today. How can I organize this? Let's take this, move it here. We start here. So, part of the problem is I didn't cover things as closely. So, I do hockey writing and reporting and stuff, and so during the off season I didn't, so I didn't see things as or watch things as closely as I usually would. Um, so yeah, I might have missed smaller subjects, but I think these are like the big ones because I went through at least one source that kind of put all of the events in chronological order, and I think everything's covered, but if I missed anything, sorry. So first, and I should say this is not in chronological order. I'm just going based on whatever kind of themes, I guess. So more management, coaching, whatever you want to call it. Then going into player-related stuff, and then more specific player-related stuff like contracts, trades, stuff like that. So first, Mike Babcock is out as the coach of the Blue Jackets, having not even been able to coach a game, which is kind of funny. So he had time off. When was his last? His last team that he coached was Toronto. Yeah. So hasn't coached since then. I thought he coached college in Canada, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, let's have a look. Because I think this should tell us. because they do pretty good here. It does not tell us. I could have sworn it was something like University of Lethbridge, or I don't know, something like that. Or maybe McGill. I don't know. Anyways, it's not all that important. Long story short, he's been away for a bit. Since I think he got fired from Toronto, didn't he? Yeah, he was fired. Okay. So he resigned, which is more or less like he got fired. So he got investigated by the NHLPA for wrongdoing related to asking for photos. It's kind of the gist of it. Nothing overly nefarious has been reported as far as I know, but since it was investigated and the result was this, it's either he was so disliked that it just made sense to get rid of him, or there's stuff that just wasn't reported. So I don't know what the case is. So, like, for example, Boone Jenner said that nothing was out of the ordinary or, wrong. So, but apparently the younger players had issues. It doesn't really matter. It just seems essentially like Babcock's never going to coach again in the NHL, which is, I think, unfortunate. Something that I dislike is I think people are too soft nowadays. And especially, like, hockey it's a tough sport. It's supposed to be a tough sport. I know it's getting more skilled and less tough. But nonetheless, it's still a contact sport. It's a grueling schedule. There's a lot to it where players should be both physically and mentally tough. And maybe he's kind of antiquated in his coaching style and things like that, and his personality, social interactions, things like that. So I don't know if it's just that he's not a good fit anymore, or if people are overreacting and too sensitive, or somewhere in between. In my opinion, because he did so well at coaching, so long as he hasn't, like, physically abused, or I was going to say emotionally abused, but the problem is where's the balance? So there's coaching that you have to sometimes push players to their limits in order to get performance. And then there's going too far where you're emotionally abusing them. That's where it's like, I think maybe some people are too soft. I think some people are very tough, emotionally in the league. It's a really tough balance, and it's a tough way to judge. I just think it doesn't appear as though he's been abusive. The fact that there was an investigation, that he had problems with the Leafs, that he resigned in the end, that he's had trouble getting coaching gigs since Toronto. There's like a whole bunch of layers to where I don't know to what extreme he's been. But as far as I know, there's no reports of physical abuse or anything excessive where it would be outside of the realm of normal hockey behavior, like from a coaching perspective. Because again, you have to push your players, and did he go too far? As far as I know, there's no reports where, like, some people have trauma where they're seeing psychologists or psychiatrists or whatever. If that was the case, then I'd be totally like, okay, yeah, he's not well suited to be a coach anymore. But as far as I know, there's no reports of that. Maybe it's taken place and we just don't know. I don't know. All I know is that if the lack of information is that he hasn't been abusive to the point where people have had to seek help from a mental health practitioner, then he should be able to coach. He might just not be a fit with some players and some teams, but I don't know. I just feel like he should have gotten another chance so long as he hasn't been abusive to the point where people need psychological help. Otherwise, a coach is supposed to be hard. That's kind of how it is. Otherwise, what's the point in having competitive sports? So that's my opinion on that. Not much more to say than that. If you want more information, you can read this article that I linked to. Maybe look into things further. That's as far as I'm going to look into it and speak about it. I've followed enough that I'm pretty sure I would have seen something if he was worse. And he wouldn't have been hired by the Blue Jackets if he was found guilty of abusing players to the point where they need medical help. So that's my opinion. I think he should have gotten a shot at coaching because he did so well, and who knows how he would have done, but that's kind of my opinion. Now, they have hired Pascal Vincent as their new head coach. I believe Krejci just got signed as an assistant, which is a good mix. Because he's got experience, Krejci, I think, with Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken, as an assistant coach. And maybe some other teams, I can't recall for sure. But to have a good guy supporting him, because I think he's coached temporarily as a head coach, I thought. No, I guess not. Maybe I'm confusing with a different guy. As a head coach in the AHL, his record was, I would say, subpar. Missed the playoffs 3 of 4 seasons where there was a playoffs. Lost in the second round and won. So, and Manitoba's had decent teams because I'm a Jets fan. I would know because I followed enough. And excuse me. I always thought they underperformed with what they had. Likewise for the Jets. So I would say predict that he's not going to be necessarily the best of coaches, but we'll see. He's been an assistant coach with the Blue Jackets, so I guess that's a promotion rather than a hiring. But yeah, so not much of a sample size, but enough where I would say I would not be confident in him. The team's not that great, but at least they brought in Krejci. I don't know who else is coaching there. Let's have a look. I wonder if it's going to tell us. Because it's so recent, I don't think we'll know hockey operations and stuff. It should be. McCarthy. I think he's a well-regarded assistant coach. I don't know him well enough. And then Krejci. I like that mix, to be honest. And they've got enough guys around that there should be enough support. So they could do well, depending on how they set up their play and all that kind of stuff. I've been to this arena, actually, funny enough. Who did I see? I think it was Islanders, Columbus. Anyways, that I have a video I did on games that I saw live, so or recapping games I saw live. So you can check that out if you want. So that's about it to say there. Just I'd say the outlook for the Blue Jackets probably is not overly optimistic, but who knows? Things can change. And I haven't done my predictions for. They would be in Metropolitan. So for that division, that's coming up next. I forget which day, but coming up soon. You can see that on the channel homepage. But so I don't know exactly what my opinion is of them, but last time I checked, I don't think they're going to be good. So next subject is excuse me, Leafs extending Sheldon Keefe. Not much really to say. Tree Living should have, because Keefe has done well. Let's pull up his stats. Because, like, didn't they... I don't think they won a President's Trophy, but they were like either in first or pretty high. Now, their playoff performance hasn't been good, and I don't know if I would blame that on him necessarily, because their playoff performance just hasn't been good in general. Some of the players, I don't like the mix of players. I think the guys they brought in this season are going to help them be a better, well-rounded team. They're pretty deep, but they brought in equally useful players and still haven't performed. So I don't know what to make of them. I think their goaltending is an issue. I was a bit more optimistic on their goaltending, not as much now. Who knows what's going to happen, really, is the truth. They're just so unpredictable in terms of their playoff performance. Regular season performance, I would say they're likely to do well, but who knows after that point. So his track record during the regular season is fantastic. His AHL track record is also quite good. 3rd round, 2nd round, championship, 3rd round. And then left to go take over the was in Toronto Marlies to Toronto Maple Leafs. So qualifying round, I mean, no big deal that he lost there. He just took over. First round's a bit, concerning, but I don't think it's necessarily his fault. And from what the players have said, they kind of have indicated that it's not his fault. And they got to the 2nd round. So, I mean, all things considered, I would say smart to re-sign him. 2 years, I don't think is a bad time frame given the contract expirations. I'm pretty sure that's dead on. So you'd want to use him for the stretch where the team's kind of stable, so it's 2 years. 24-25. So does he end at 24-25? No, he goes into the next portion. So I don't dislike it. I don't know if I would necessarily think it's great either. He could have gotten 3-4 years, but it's the same with players. It's not a bad idea to keep them short so then you can see performance extend. But I think he has enough of a track record where I would have argued maybe 3 would have been the optimal length, but That's all right. Gives them flexibility. Not much more to talk about in that regard. I think it's a player problem, not a coach problem with the Leafs. And so actually it's a GM problem, is my opinion. But next up, Bergeron and Krejci retired. I could talk about their careers, but the one thing I want to comment on, so I think Bergeron still had enough in the tank where he could have played. I could have sworn that I've seen previously in his career where he's had personal issues. I don't like family, somebody sick, or somebody passed away, or I don't know. Maybe it's just the right time for him to leave. Because, like, still, I mean, from a performance perspective, he's still plus 35. So he's an awesome two-way player, 25 goals, just shy of a point per game. Great leader. So he probably could have gotten a couple of years, but he probably has some sort of good rationale for him having retired. So, not surprising. And it was spoken of before anyways, so whatever. And he leaves on a decent note. Like, I know they got eliminated way earlier than expected, but they made a new record for regular season, so I think it's okay. And I think because Bergeron's retirement announcement happened before Krejci, I believe, or I would guess, that Krejci probably retired because Bergeron retired. Krejci, I believe, is 1 year younger, at least, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so he's 1 year younger. He had more time in him too, probably. Especially with how old some of these players can play too when they're good/elite. So he had time away from the league and still managed to put up 56 points in 70 games, plus 23. I mean, they dominated teams, so the plus is maybe a bit misleading. But so anyways, not much more to say than 2 big losses for the Bruins. Maybe early retirements, but, it's kind of in range. So now the impact on the Bruins. So they've lost. So both those guys were on cheap salaries. So they lost that cap hit, but I don't know how much. They don't have any space really anyways. They brought in, I think, a couple guys. Lucic is back at a good contract. Van Riemsdyk comes in. I think Patrick Brown, if I'm not mistaken, is a new pickup. He is. What else is there? Geeky, I think, is new. There might be other guys of those that are new. Shattenkirk, I'm pretty sure, is new. So anyways, I think the team's still pretty decent. Again, I haven't looked at it in great depth, but goaltending tandem's great. So the team's going to be competitive. Again, I'd have to contrast with the rest of the teams. That's what I'll be doing in the predictions for the Atlantic Division. So you can tune into that. Again, channel homepage has when that's scheduled. But just, taking a look at it briefly, they're missing a couple important players. They've filled some of that performance back. They also lost Hall, I think was there last season too. So they're missing some, got back some. I don't think they're going to be quite as strong, but they're at the very least competing for a playoff spot. I'm pretty sure better than that, but again, I would have to contrast with the rest of the teams. They're probably going to be like middle of the pack in their division/conference. So yeah, anyways, we'll see what happens. So the outlook is not horrible because I think they brought in stuff to replace just probably less to get the same performance they got last season, which of course they can't match that. But anyways, so unfortunate for the Bruins fans. Oh, Marchand's the captain now. I don't think that's an overly significant thing to comment on. But yeah, so kind of a new look Bruins moving forward to some degree. They have Pasternak extended. I think that just started this season or this coming season. So they still have a core, especially on defense. So it's not a major change. I mean, it's major because it was their captain, but that's about it, really. Next up, Toews taking time away from hockey. So, because he's had issues with long COVID, I believe is, the story. So he was one of the guys I was waiting on to see if he would sign before I would do this stream, and he didn't and won't for at least a bit. So he hasn't said that he's retiring. Maybe could come back before the deadline. I don't know what the rules are on signing after the deadline. I think you maybe can. You should be able to. I don't see why not. But anyways, so he could come back this season. Maybe, you never know. We'll see what happens. But he's stepping away. I think he did okay when he was in this season. Let's have a brief look. "31 points in 53 games, minus 31, but the team was garbage." So, so he's probably still got some hockey in him. He's 35, maybe a couple years. In all likelihood, he's going to retire relatively soon, but we'll see what happens. So wish him well, of course, but that's kind of how things go. All right, next up is trade history. So we went to July 7th. So DeBrincat went over to Detroit for Kubalik. I guess a prospect. What kind of prospect is he? 3rd overall pick. Not a major one. 1st and a 4th. So DeBrincat, from my understanding, didn't want to re-sign with Ottawa. And I think he's from this area, Farmington Hills, yeah. So I think that's close. I'd have to check, but so he's a good pickup for Detroit. My concern is with guys that are trouble, but you're allowed to want what you want, so I don't know if he's necessarily trouble. So I'd be concerned if a guy refuses to sign to be confident in them staying with your team, but maybe he just always wanted to play for this team and finally got it. I don't know. In any case, good for Detroit, assuming he plays well, which he's put up some stellar goals before, 41, 41, point per game-ish. So very useful player for Detroit to add. So they're going to be, I think, pretty good. And they lost Kubalik, which I know is a decent performing player. 20 to 30 goals, half a point per game. So gave up enough. Excuse me. Got back, I would say, more. So I think Detroit wins that trade. Well, the argument is always whoever gets the better player or the best player wins the trade. And I think in this case it's very clearly true because the first round pick is not even guaranteed. So, and if they do well, then it's not great value. So anyways, so I like that trade for Detroit. Ottawa, if you had no choice, it's not a big deal. And Kubelik's a decent player. So I don't think it's bad from either side. I think it's pretty even. Now, I've been wanting to talk about this trade for a while. So I thought that Dubas might have learned from his ways in Toronto. They picked up Karlsson, which, what's the cap hit? Is $10 million. Like, they don't have any cap space to do anything. This is their team. Is it a Stanley Cup winner? I'd say it's better. See, the problem is, though, what did they give up again? DeSmith, second. Petrie, I like all those. A first. Granlund, I liked. Ruda's not bad. Like, they gave up a lot to get Karlsson, and I know it's win now in Pittsburgh. I don't know if I dislike the trade for that reason, because they're trying to win now. He probably ran it past Crosby, Malkin, and all those guys, Letang. So they really are in win now mode, and it makes sense. But the problem is getting rid of what they got rid of. They're not retooling. Like, there's no way. So with what they got Gensel is good, but he's expiring. Rust is good. The rest, I don't know if the teams, like, they're all old. So they don't really have a good young core to grow with. They got a couple pieces here and there. Goalie's not bad. I like Nedeljkovic as a backup. Again, I'll go over this stuff in the prediction thing, so Metropolitan one. But I don't know. Because some of the pieces they got rid of, they could have used to kind of retool rather than rebuild. And it feels like they're going to have to rebuild with all this stuff. Karlsson's not young. He's had tons of injury problems. So who knows if he's even going to be healthy. I don't know. I just, on his high end, he's fantastic. On his low end, he doesn't exist because he's injured. So just the range of risk with him, I don't like it. I would have gone for somebody else. Whatever. And then if he has to do a rebuild, like, that's going to be pretty embarrassing. Because I don't think teams have to go up, tank. I think you can stay at some even level, and even a high even level, and constantly, consistently, whatever, compete for a cup. Now, again, it's a video game. I've demonstrated it with franchise mode for NHL. But, I don't know. I really don't like the way the GMs run things. He hasn't given contracts yet or anything of great significance. So in that regard, I don't know. So I still don't know for sure what's going to happen with Dubas, if he will have learned from his ways. But I don't know. I just think he could have done something different, probably better for the franchise long term than Karlsson. So I would predict, this is a light prediction because, again, we don't have much of a sample size for transactions, but I feel like he hasn't learned from his mistakes, but we'll see. Probably getting ahead of myself, but anyways. So that was a trade I wanted to talk about. Montreal got stuff. They're not really doing anything anyways, so whatever. San Jose got back basically Granlund, Ruda. Well, it is exactly like that. Granlund, Ruda first. I like picking up Hoffman. He's not bad. I don't think he's played as well as of late, but he's got decent historic numbers. So I think San Jose is actually, you know, better off probably with what they have. No, they're missing a defenseman maybe out of the whole thing. So I I guess what I would argue is neither San Jose nor Montreal got any noticeably better. Montreal's got a goalie now, which is okay, good, I guess. Another defenseman, but they're not going to be competitive, I don't think, anyways. So um, they're getting better. Maybe in the next couple of years they could compete, but I don't know. I just don't think really there's any dramatic impact on any team except Pittsburgh. They're in win now mode and they could do well because of this, but I don't know if I like it long term. So whatever. I would say altogether kind of indifferent for Montreal, San Jose, and Pittsburgh. I think it could have been better. So, Detroit picked up Petrie. I don't think I noticed that one before. I like Petrie going to Detroit, so I think Detroit's going to be a much improved team with their pickups. Pearson going to Montreal. I think that's going to help. Oh, they got rid of DeSmith. Yeah, I forgot about that. That was pretty recent. So, good for Vancouver, I guess. Didn't they have two goalies that they were running with? Demko and wasn't it Martins or something like that? I don't know. Maybe they got rid of somebody. Spencer Martin. Maybe he wasn't ready. I don't know. Seems like overkill, maybe. It's a good pairing. But yeah, the team's not overly competitive, so I really don't know if it's all that good for any of the teams. Montreal, I think, because of these, well, they got rid of Petrie and DeSmith, so I don't know if they're really any better, anyways. So essentially, all these trades, the only real major impact is Pittsburgh. So maybe Pittsburgh has a good shot at a cup because of Carlson, but maybe he gets injured and they don't even have a player. So who knows what's going to happen with them. So that's that for trades. Signings, I was going to filter by salary, but I won't. I'll just skim through to see what stands out. So DeBrincat at 7.875 is a great value contract. 4 years, lots of flexibility. I really like Yzerman. I think he's super smart. And I think he's putting together another Tampa Bay. Pretty impressive. I think he's done a great job. So I really like that contract. So flexibility and cap hit wise. And I'm looking forward to previewing them or predicting where they sit. Because it seems like they've done a lot of good things. So really like Yzerman. Man, is he ever good. Anything else here so far? Gurianov to Nashville. I think he did well in one playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, with Dallas. Was it? I think it was Dallas. Yeah, 17 and 27, but otherwise it's been mediocre. So good for Nashville, but I don't think Nashville's going to be that great of a team. Miller at 3.872. I think he probably deserves. Actually, that's pretty cheap. I'd be happy with that contract. How many years? 2. Maybe would wanted to lock him up maybe 3 to 5, but that's fine. If you want to see what's going to happen, he might deserve more afterwards. But hey, and I don't know their full cap situation. Maybe they were stuck anyways. But New Hook going to Montreal. I don't think that's that significant. Janot extending with Tampa. I think that's good value, 2.665. Howden, was that an extension? I guess not. 1.9. I think that's decent. He's mostly defensive, is he not? That's fine. Decent contract. Velarde with Winnipeg. I don't think I noticed that one. Didn't they go to arbitration or something, I think? But it feels like that's a good contract. 2 years, 3.4-ish. 40 points. Good pedigree, first round pick. 23 goals in 63 games. I think that's extremely good value. So good on the Jets. Bit of flexibility. I don't know. I mean, maybe you could have signed him a bit longer because he's pretty young. Maybe they had no choice because if it was... does it tell us if it's an award from arbitration? Yeah. So it kind of gets decided for them. So 2 years, yeah. I guess that's just how it is. Vince Dunn at 7.35. I'm pretty sure he doesn't produce enough for that to be a good contract. I stand corrected. I didn't know that he had that good of a season last season. 64 points is massive in 81 games. Because I remembered his historic numbers, like 35 points-ish. So based on that season, that's the problem, is one season to get that kind of contract. I don't know. Can he produce that again? I know he has a decent track record, and I think was he a first round pick? I feel like he was second round pick. So I mean, and I know he played decent in St. Louis, so it's not the worst contract. If they can get similar performance, like 50-ish, even 40-ish points per season would be good value with 7.35. I wouldn't want to spend this much too frequently on a defenseman, but isn't he a right shot as well? No, he's a left shot. Just plays both sides. So if he was a right shot, I'd say probably accurate, but left shot, maybe he should have been more towards, or what I would have wanted to do would have been high 6s, 7 kind of at the most. So, but it's close enough. So it's, I think, a decent contract, and he's got upside based on the previous season. So Samsonov 3.55, perfectly fine. I'm okay with that. I think that was also arbitration award. Yeah. Or it said after filing. I don't know if it was an award, but anyways. Who else is here? Luosterainen did well in the playoffs. Extended at 3 per. It's probably accurate. If you're getting 43 points out of the guy, I'd say that's great value. So decent contract. I like that. D'Angelo, the fact that he got bought out and then went back to Carolina, I think it's extremely good value. They've got something where they're able to work with him. And I mean, 42 with Philadelphia, and he was getting benched. I know he was minus pretty heavily. Maybe he's not as good defensively, but he produces so much that just limit his regular strength and then play him on the power play or whatever it is. But he produced 10 points in 14 games with Carolina in the playoffs. So, I mean, I know he has, so he got that racism thing with the Rangers and didn't get along with Tortorella, it seems like. So, who knows? There's a wide range of reasons of why you wouldn't want him, but exclusively from a performance perspective, absolutely you want him. So great for them. I think that's going to make Carolina really good for super cheap. I would have wanted him multiple years, but good for them. Aho on an extension, 9.75. For these kind of performing players, it's great value. Like 30 some odd goals a season, basically a point per game, good two-way player, great playoff performer. I mean, so if you're ever going to spend $10 million plus or minus, in this case minus, which is pretty stellar, but like contrast this with like a Tavares contract, I would really much prefer having Aho over Tavares. Because of youth and probably equal performance. Maybe Tavares performs slightly more, but in the playoffs, it's been Aho hands down. So, as far as I'm concerned, like, that's a great contract. 8 years, I don't like 8-year contracts, but of all people, he's one of the most stable performing players up in that top tier where if you're going to do it for anybody, it's going to be him. And 8 years at that cap hit, no question. Great deal. Brings him to 34. Ideal age. Absolutely love it. Great for Carolina. Good job. Tarasenko, $5 million. Great contract. No risk. I mean, he's had, I think, some injury problems previously at least. Still performing great, so 50 points in 69 games. Not too old, so I mean, great contract. I think Ottawa's going to be improved with that. And who was it? The guy they picked up from Detroit. Just the depth, I think, is going to be a lot better in Ottawa. I'd have to look, but I'll go over that in my predictions later on. So I think great job there. Swayman, that was a arbitration award, if I'm not mistaken. Troy Terry at $7 million. I don't know what his performance was like. Yeah, seems about right. Just under a point per game. So I'd say great value there. 20 to 30 some odd goals. Young guy. 7 years though, I don't know if I like. If you're going to do it with anybody at that cap hit, it lines up. Maybe I would have preferred like 5 times 7, but that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Kupari, only $1 million. Like, that's cheap. I like that for Winnipeg. Tom Wilson extended at 6.5 for 7. I think his performance is actually worth that. He had injury problems and has had injury problems. But I think from his impact value, it's probably about right. So, decent contract. I maybe wouldn't have gone for 7. That brings him to 37 years old. 5 at the most, probably 4. 34 is a good age to have a contract end. At that cap hit would have been okay, but I don't know. Dumba going to Arizona, that's one of the ones I was waiting on, 3.9. I think that's yeah, it's about right. Maybe slightly high. I know he's had great seasons before, but it seems like he's really gone down a lot. So maybe slightly high, but they can afford it because of cap space. So So indifferent about that. I wouldn't have spent that much on him, though. Hagel, I'd have to look at. 8 years. See, this is the difference between Breezebaugh, the GM, and Yzerman. Yzerman, I think he does those 8 years when he should, and less when he shouldn't do those long term. Whereas Breezebaugh, I think he has a habit of doing too much too soon. I mean, great 30 goals, 64 points in 81 games, but he doesn't have enough of a track record. 25 goals, I know, is decent. 44 points in 77 games. But I just don't think enough track record to justify 8 years. Brings him to 33 is okay, and 6.5 is okay for his performance. I would have preferred paying more shorter term. So with him, maybe something like 3 to 5, maybe overpaying if you need to, like a 7. I want to go much higher than that if I could help it. But so again, 8 years, I don't know. They're locking up their core. Like, I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't know. I think some GMs do too long of contracts too soon, too frequently, and I think they run into a lot of trouble with cap flexibility, and then that's why you need to tank again and then go out, tank and go up and all that stuff. So, anyways, so not the worst, not what I would do though. Matthews extended 4 years, 13.25. If anybody you're going to offer that kind of cap hit, it's Matthews, because you can't get 60 goals anywhere. But, and like his worst is basically 40 goals. But you really eat up the cap, and I mean, you can't give these massive yes, he deserves it, but the problem is you just have no space. Yes, you can bring in some of these guys like Domi at $3 million and Bertuzzi at $5.5 and all this stuff. Like, you can draw in some of these players given how good the team is on the high end, but like, you give yourselves no flexibility, and you have to really rely on brand recognition and desire to be with those top players in order to fill out your roster, because they all need to take less than they're worth. And really, like, even this team's not crazy deep, I would argue. So I don't like it. Like you would have seen it. So again, it's a video game, but you would have seen it in franchise mode. I've had people that produce the same rate as Matthews ask for the same salary, and I get rid of them. But we keep winning cups. Toronto hasn't won a cup. And I know it's a video game, but I've won 6 in 10, plus 2 other Game 7 Stanley Cup finals. So it's like almost 8 in 10. And 8 of 10 President's trophies. So I mean, again, it's a video game, whatever. But I think this is all replicable in real life. So I just don't like it. But if you're going to do it with anybody, it's him. If it was up to me, the most I would want to spend is something like 10, 11 million I could handle. But beyond that, no. So anyways, again, he's worth it, but I just don't like it. Bouchard at 3.9 is great based on his performance. 40 some odd points. See, that's where you contrast that with the Dumba contract. And he had 17 points in 12 games. I didn't realize in the playoffs. So good for him. So high performing defenseman, great cap hit. Big contrast in what you're getting out of the player. Yes, I know that Dumba might, I don't know, maybe be better defensively. I don't know. I'd have to look closer, and I'd have to watch way more to see and know. But so I just clearly a good value in Edmonton there. So good job. Sanderson at $8 million for 8 years. I don't like that. Not enough of a track record. 1 season, 32 points, and you sign him for $8 million, 8 years. I don't like the GM in Ottawa. I don't think he's done a good job. Dorian, I think. Because like some of those, Stutzla's fine, Brady's fine. Just maybe Shabbat's kind of reasonable. Nah, maybe he hasn't done. Because Norris was, I think, a bit premature, but the cap hit was okay. And Sanderson is definitely premature. But again, it's theoretically okay. So we'll see what happens. If you're going to do it with anybody, you would do it with that. Doesn't he have good pedigree? I think he was fifth overall pick. So, I mean, whatever. It's a normal contract, just not what I would do. I'd want to do, based on his lack of track record, I'd want to do like 5 years. Maybe something like you could maybe spend more. If I would do something like $7 million, it would have to be 3 years. If I was going to do 5 years, then it'd have to be something like $5 million to be okay with that. So, anyways, that's my thoughts. Backlund, that just happened. 4.5, 2 years. And everybody was saying that he wasn't going to re-sign, but he did. I think it was him they were talking about. But anyways, 4.5 I think is fine. Actually, probably even cheap. Even if he's only getting 40 some odd points, I think that's a good cap hit for centerman. So, decent contract. I'm okay with that. And that's basically up to date. Good timing because I have to get going. So that's basically everything. Brings us up to speed. So, yeah, looking forward to another season. You'll see, well, I've already started with the schedule, posting the schedule for games, injuries. I'm doing more for the shorts than last season. Going to try to make this a source for all the most important information. Maybe not as timely when it comes to trades and news. So I plan to do that weekly. But I don't think you really need to do it more frequently. I might do shorts for most important news stories. I might do where I actually talk, but the thing is I just don't know if I have enough time to also do more video stuff. So we'll kind of see, but at the very least, I'll pull up my notes here. So at the very least, throughout the season, you can expect. So scores from the previous day. I'll be doing standings like I did multiple times a week, like I did last season. Stat leaders I'll be doing, injury reports, so I already have it planned to do signings, trades, and acquisitions once a week for a short. But I'm going to be doing news as well. So I don't know exactly what the plan is with that. So we'll see. Since I'm doing the news, maybe I might even scrap that, not even bother, and then do a day of for the biggest ones. We'll see. So anyway, so those are some of the shorts that I'll be doing. I'll be doing news once a week, and I think I need to adjust my planned schedule. You guys wouldn't know what that is, but I think I'm going to double up on Friday. So Friday morning, do some miscellaneous subject, that whatever I decide to talk about. So it could be NHL 23 or 24, depending on the version at the time. Could be studies that I do, new research and stuff like that. So I think I'll be doing those in the mornings, and then the news on Friday nights. And then it seems like it's going to be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday for franchise mode, NHL 23, up till probably December, and then I'll switch over to NHL 24 after all the major updates. And then that is it. So it's probably going to be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday franchise mode, Friday double up for like video streams like this for content. And then, like I said, shorts for all like the regular everyday stuff. So then this way, hopefully you can have all the sources of information in one spot. And if you like my commentary or my thoughts on things, then you get that too. And then you don't have to go seek out the information from TSN, ESPN, depending on where you're from. So that's about it. That's kind of the plans moving forward. It's going to get implemented basically not this coming week, I don't think, but the next one after, or it's going to be this coming week, one of the two. But you'll see it all, and it'll all be scheduled and all posted. And then otherwise, my own routine with the shorts, you'll get a hang of when they come out. So probably a couple times a week for most of the odds and ends, like stat leaders and injuries and things like that, standings, trades, all that kind of stuff. So anyways, so that's kind of the plan. And yeah, we'll leave it there. So if you like the stream, hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe, turn on notifications. The channel homepage has upcoming streams on regular NHL content. The next one is tomorrow, midnight Eastern. So I'm sorry for some of the late stuff that I have to do, but it's just the only way I can fit in my life. And I've kept trying to attempt different things, and most of them just don't work. So that's the best that I can do. So for the Fridays, it'll be midnight probably. Then the time change, it'll move to 11 p.m. Eastern. And then I think it's going to turn out being 12 for the other random subjects, 12 p.m. Or wait, sorry. No, 2 p.m. Wait. Yeah, so I think it's going to be 2 p.m. Eastern, and then switching to 1 p.m. after the time change for the random subjects that I decide to cover and studies and all that. So that's that. For things I can't schedule ahead of time, like franchise mode, that schedule's in the About section of the channel. Time should remain consistent. I believe 10:30 p.m. Eastern should be good. Should always be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is the plan. I should now, with the way that I've structured things, be able to do more Be a Pro, maybe twice a week, but that's going to be fully unscheduled. So you just have to kind of turn on notifications and monitor things to see when I'm up next. Any comments, leave them in the comments, suggestions likewise, and that's it. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys tomorrow midnight for my predictions for, I think it's Metropolitan if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I look forward to that, and I hope you guys will too. So see you then. Okay, bye.